And here we go. Now we're recording.
Cool.
So I will call this meeting to order at 7:02. And we're waiting for Eric and Jim, who hopefully will sign on. And our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes, which Tom sent around earlier. Have all of you had a chance to take a look at them?
I thought they were very complete.
Mm-hmm. Is everyone in a position to take a vote on them?
I'll vote.
Yeah. You meaning we want to vote to approve them, but if people hadn't had a chance to look at them yet, we might postpone that. But looks like most people who are here, all the people who are here can vote on them. Tom, I thought, again, good job. I'll bet you like doing these more abbreviated versions of the minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm hoping it's maybe just like representing an organic evolution.
Yeah.
We've done it
no.
so much before this.
Right. No, it's good.
Uh-huh.
So, well, can the chairperson make a motion? I think so. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. Does anyone second those?
I'll second it.
Bob seconds it. Okay, so I'll vote aye to yes. Bob,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Charlene. Charlene is muted. Charlene, you are muted.
Okay, I just undid it. Aye, sorry.
Okay, no problem. And Tom?
I'll say aye to the April 17 minutes.
Okay, good. All right.
Did you say your vote, Jen? I didn't catch that.
Oh, I said aye.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
All right, you made the motion. Okay.
So I wanted to give a quick update to the extent that there is one available on our application for the Rural Development Fund grant. That application is due on June 4th. I spoke to the town administrator a couple of times this week already. She's just about ready to send it in. She did get a letter of support and a supporting map from FERCog. And I wanted to do a screen share of that map so you could take a look at it. I think I can just go to my desktop. We have to read this. And had it here all set up for us. 1 second.
Less cluttered than my desktop.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So now are you guys able to see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the map that I'll make it a little smaller. This is the map that'll get included with Shutesbury's application. So it's a mashup really of several of the maps that were in the FERCog watershed-based plan. So it has a number of items here on land uses, which we thought that the Rural Development Fund people, that it was important for them to see the density of residences around study. I don't know whether I just received this today, so this tells all the different land use categories. So I think that's a pretty useful map, a pretty helpful map. I think it supports our application well. And if, I mean, I could email this to everybody if it's of interest to you, or I'll just keep it in our file. Tom, you might need it since we're talking about it for the minutes.
Yeah, just for that would be great, please. It doesn't look no different from the watershed-based plans map. I think.
Right, it's really, it takes several of their maps
Yeah.
and puts them all onto one map. It was
Yeah, I
just,
get it.
yeah,
And it doesn't carve out the like site 1, 2, 3, like.
no, it groups them all
bigger.
together.
Yeah,
We just felt that was easy. It followed the narrative of the application a little bit better. Let me just sign that away for a minute, and now I'm going to stop screen sharing. Okay. So the select board has put on the town meeting warrant for the vote on Saturday the approval of funding to cover the 10% match. And the Lake Wyola Association has voted in the affirmative to support 5% of that match. So we're in good shape as far as that goes. Charlene participated in those discussions. I gave a short presentation that described the project itself, the match requirements, the town's interest in supporting it too. But Charlene, do you have anything you want to add to the group to update people on the match part?
No, other than the only thing that I think we learned was that the 5% has to be the actual number that of the amount. We had lifted it up a little just to anticipate any additional costs, but apparently we have to go 5% to the actual quote that we put into the grant. So that was the only difference of anything.
Okay, yeah, that's true. And also the finance committee, the town of Shutesbury's finance committee reviews all monetary proposals that go before the town meeting. So they had a unanimous decision to support this. I wasn't unable to go to the finance committee Zoom meeting last night. It will be on the YouTube channel. So I hope to look at that tomorrow before the town meeting. But someone from the finance committee ran into me and just said that they were, she wanted me to extend to all of you a congratulations for the work that we've done on behalf of reducing the sediment. And she said that the finance committee was 100% all for this and long overdue and all kinds of accolades for all of us. So pats on the back from the Shutesbury Finance Committee.
That's amazing. I'm just curious. So what is the ask at town hall as far as what is 5%? That would be the
Well,
ask.
the total amount, I think the total amount is 8,700. And so I think that the town meeting vote will be on the whole amount, just so that they have some cushion in case the Lake Wyola Association situation becomes kind of fuzzy. They didn't want to jeopardize the grant at all. Tom, do you have a hand up?
yeah, please. I was at the meeting last night and asked
good.
this article, if you don't mind my reporting. It's not the official report, like it's not their minutes that I'm spouting out right now, but the town meeting warrant has the figure of $8,000. And you and we all know that the actual 10% figure is $8,700.
Well, that's interesting.
Because that $7,000 extra geomorphic study, I think, didn't get communicated in time. So I raised a question of like, I just want to know, was it supposed to be 8,700 or 8? And they said it's actually not a matter because of the LWA approval. For whatever amount they do, it will be more than 700. So the town is being asked to approve 8,000 on May 31st at town meeting. And they will
I
announce.
suppose I could make an amendment to that. I don't know whether
You cannot amend up. You can only amend down. So during town meeting, there will either be no amendment, just to keep the cushion there, or if they know, if I don't know, Charlene, if they have an official communication yet from LWA with like a number, but if they do have a number, theoretically at town meeting, they might actually lower that amount to reflect the exact amount needed with the idea of how much LWA is giving. But I'm suspecting they'll probably just leave the 8,000 figure alone, because there was even a clip or a side comment, I forget who said it, if something happened, and we couldn't rely on LWA or another party for whatever reason in the world, it would be better to approve the 8,000 and have to come up with $700 extra, relatively speaking. So it all sounded like everybody actually was aware of everything. People already knew when I said the 8,000 versus 8,700 thing.
And I know, oh,
Please, yeah. So that was it. Yeah, I hope that made sense.
don't raise my hand here. I finally found it. I know when we talked about it, Bob Blanchett, who handles our finances, we're going to be dipping into one of our funds that we've put aside for something like this, not knowing it was going to happen this year. So it's not that we have to raise and appropriate this kind of money. We've got it in a fund right now sitting there. So it's not going to be a matter of whether LWA can contribute. We will
Awesome.
be able to contribute. So
Yeah.
Right. And to answer your question, Tom, there was an official communication sent from the association to the town confirming their support and commitment of the 40, it ends up being 4,350 to answer Bob's question is the 5%. So, and my understanding
Okay,
from,
then maybe there was just an oversight at one point, like when the warrant article was written.
I think something happened then. I wasn't aware of it, but
But it
I was
amounted
also
to
told
a
that,
problem, so.
yeah, I don't think it's a problem because I was also told that it's below a threshold where there is a big concern about, it's below a dollar amount threshold. I think they could add more if they needed to, but it's good that it's on the town warrant because it's good for people in the town to know that
Absolutely.
this is happening. So let's
I
see
just want to
then.
say thank you to Charlene for
Yeah,
going to bat. That is really wonderful to have buy-in from the Lake Association, and I think it really sends a strong message to the town. Thank you.
well, and to be honest with you, it was the whole committee that was 100% behind it. So it's really a thanking to the full committee. People don't want anything negative to happen to the lake. That's the bottom line. And there just never was a real process to move forward with it. And now there is. So I think people are excited to know something's in place rather than talking points. So
yeah, that's great. You did, you were very good liaison for our agenda there, Charlene, and that's a good segue into the next item on our agenda. But let me just ask, does anyone have questions about the application itself? It's due on June 4th. She almost was going to push the button to send it today, but then I was able to find out that the material from FERCog hadn't gotten transmitted to the town yet. So they waited for that. And then I was also able to confirm that the letter from Joe Comerford's office hadn't made its way to the town yet. So we still have until June 4th. So that's the last little bit of follow-up, and then it should be complete, and fingers crossed.
Cool.
Absolutely.
So any questions from our group about the application?
you'll share that with us, Jen, once it gets completed?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean once it's actually sent in, or we won't know till October.
Right, right.
But yeah, when I know for sure that it's been sent, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay, good. Let's see, going down the list here. All right, so then, Charlene, since you just gave us the update on the vote for the match, I gave a short presentation to the association and to Concom with our draft recommendations on management and maintenance, and also on public education. And Charlene helped to shepherd the discussion at LWA about that. And I can put up, you know, the text that was approved, but do you want to give us a little background in how that discussion went and any feedback that we should know about?
Yes, I sent the drafts of the education piece and the management piece, and we looked at it. And there wasn't any concerns as to things to change. There was one thing that I remember reading, but then we couldn't find it, and maybe somebody on our committee can remember. We had talked about, there was one recommendation that people, like a lay group of people, including Lake Wyola Association people, could go onto people's properties if people were in agreement to that. That did that get taken out, or did that get changed in its wording? Because none of us seemed to be able to put our hands on it, because that was the only thing we talked about as a concern, but it was optional anyway. So if a homeowner did not want you on their property, then obviously you couldn't go on their property. So that's how people took it to understand. But otherwise, everybody was in agreement to what you had given me as drafts to show the committee. So there was no.
Well, we do, but they did suggest one change. Let me share them. I'll share them one at a time.
Can I ask a quick question, please?
Yeah.
Because I got confused when you started this part of the portion of the meeting. You said you gave a presentation to LWA and Concom. Did you give two presentations to them separately or one to both of them?
No,
yeah.
A separate presentation to both.
Okay, because I was getting really confused. I was like, I don't remember. Okay, so.
Yeah. The Concom presentation was mostly, because I had talked with them one other time, it was an update of where we were and a request.
Now it all makes sense to me. I just was thinking you had talked about a new meeting I didn't know about with both of them at the same time.
It was a meeting where we requested that they, if they're in support of it, that they could write a letter in support of the application. I think, Bob, you were going to mastermind that for Concom, and that worked out okay. Hope we still have Bob. Maybe he ducked out for a minute. All right,
Sorry to interrupt. It just was a confusion.
Yeah. This is the draft, which once it's not a draft, will be included in our report to the select board. It says these are recommendations that you all have seen this, so I don't know if to read it in particular, but this item number 6 was one that Charlene, you said that the Lake Wyola Association wanted a revision. I forget what was there in the first place, but this number 6, can you give us some information about that?
Can you open that a little better, Jen?
Yeah, it's really
open
hard.
it better. How do I open it better?
I can only see like a thumbnail of the document. I have.
Oh, it's weird.
You know, Jen, let me go get my minutes from the Lake Wyola, and then I can better answer your question. So I'm just going to move out a minute.
All right, how about that? Is that better?
No. It's just showing me like a preview thumbnail.
I wonder why it would do that. So
like if you double click on it or double click on
yeah, this is what I did. I double clicked.
Oh, okay.
So how can I change that?
Is it the same one you sent us?
Yeah, except for the change that the Lake Wyola Association wanted to make.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, I have a copy of the other one I could display, but this is the specific maintenance and management.
Yes.
Recommendations.
I wonder why it would be that. Well, you had no trouble seeing the map and all that, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's as if it's like just not opening. Can you? What if you double click on the image there of the document?
Where is the
image? What I mean, I don't know. All I see is like a small window.
All right, let me try to open it.
Like to the right of where you are right now, there's an image I see of the document.
I see that, yeah.
But can you click on that, or is that a clickable thing?
Is that better?
No.
No, huh? Okay.
Yeah, we're only seeing your like folder. We're not seeing the document.
Well, that's really weird. Let me slide it out of the folder.
Maybe you want to share and start share again. It might be a Zoom glitch.
No change?
That's good.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
Charlene, can you see that now?
All right, yeah, now I
Yeah.
can, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the part that Charlene had said that they, everyone was 100% behind these items. We could put them in our report to the select board, but they requested this text to be in number 6. And I do not have in front of me the previous number 6.
Let's see if I have it anywhere.
Tom, you have it.
What I have is attention to Great Pines water bars, which are too high, not enough turnouts, and not maintained. But I don't know if I have a very old version.
Oh, no, that's the one, LWA, attention to Great Pines water bars, which are, right, too high, not enough turnouts there, and they are not maintained. And in our discussion, I believe what I recall is that we talked that this is done on a regular basis anyway. So writing the word will evaluate is something we continue to do. Rather than the way, attention to Great, where Great Pines water bars, they're too high. That was more of an opinion statement, so we didn't like that in there because
That was the assessment of FERCog.
right. We just felt that statement more or less was, stronger than we'd like, and that just putting in evaluating it is something we would do. And if that, certainly if it's too high, then obviously you make a change. But I believe that was the discussion.
Mhm. I wish Jim was here because not that it would change in this document necessarily, but what happens in the future? Well, I mean, and I could ask Charlene whether this discussion came up of in addressing these, I could make this document a little smaller now, so it's all on one page.
We did take out in number 2, maybe I didn't send that along, to take out Lake Wyola to rename the Lake Wyola Roads Committee. I mean, there was a discussion, some people thought, well, it doesn't matter, so maybe we did keep it in. We must have kept it in because obviously it's still in there. But that wasn't I think there was a recommendation to put something about erosion in there in the title, and some people felt we should do it and other people didn't, so we just left it as is apparently. If that makes any sense.
Mhm.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Does it make sense to all of you?
It would still be the same committee, I guess, is what people
Yeah.
were saying. So, so if you change the name of it, you're still dealing with the same
Understood.
important
It
group.
seems the expand its mission part is like the more important thing.
That's
Yeah.
the most important part.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm curious about, and I don't know, it's not our role right here to iron this out, but I'll ask Charlene, was there discussion about how, so these are very specific items, right? And they're all going, except for number 6, which is now less specific than it was in the first place. Is there a process that was discussed as far as how these items would begin to get worked on? In other words, we're trying to move from the being actual recommendations to, like work plans, things that are actually happening.
We didn't have a discussion on that. The only thing we did discuss is how we've done in what we've done in the past, where we've tried to have a master plan for each year to decide what needs to be done and then to prioritize what we have the money to handle. So that's the only process we discussed. As far as, maybe having a schedule of when things are going to be done, no, that was never discussed.
Okay, and then let's say an item like the Lake Wyola Association to remove sediments from turnouts along North and South Laurel and install additional turnouts. So this was approved by the association, and then as an example, can it get assumed that this then makes its way into some kind of a work program for this year or next year or something like that?
I don't want to answer for the full committee, but I certainly will bring it up and tell them that this is, since we have technically, said yes to the document, that what is our next steps, and should we have a schedule of planned events of when to do things. And I know, we have certain things such as, and they're coming up, I think, pretty soon. We have those neighborhood meetings where people can come from every part of the lake, because we have 4 or 5 meetings on that weekend, and people can tell us things that need to be done. And Jen, you've participated in pretty much every year when we've had those. But where these are very specific things, they may or may not come up in those meetings. So maybe that's something we can address with the roads committee as to what they see as a schedule of when these things can be done. But I can bring it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I think it would be good. I mean, it's not, and I see Joe has his hand raised. I'll say I'm not sure that it's the task force role to say how the association or its roads committee
No,
should
right,
do
right.
business, But I think if we're submitting this to the select board saying these are specific recommendations that the association has signed off on being behind, that understanding how they come to be implemented is something that should be easy to identify. For example, some of these in the highway department, these are already being done.
Right.
Joe has already, so if the town said, okay, the highway department is to assess this, or the highway department is to clean culverts and ditches, they were doing that already in April or May. I mean, that's almost just completed at this point. So
Right.
there is like performance criteria that should go along with something like this.
Right.
And
Well, numbers 2, 6, 7, and 9 are the ones particular to the.
Yeah, so maybe it would just be interesting to find out how the association might work with this document in terms of its planning.
And I will
Yeah.
do that for the next meeting. I'll put that on the agenda.
Great. Now, Joe, your hand is up. Are you there, Joe? Only Joe's hand is there.
Joe, you're muted.
Oh,
Oh, maybe he's talking, yeah.
okay.
He's still muted.
Maybe he will come back.
Can I
So
raise
wait
my
a
hand
s-
in the meantime?
Can I send him a message? I don't think so.
Or can I raise my hand in the meantime?
Oh yeah, raise your hand in the meantime.
Okay. Joe, I hope you're there with us. Number 10, I can actually blow it up on my Zoom screen here. Number 10, I don't remember seeing, did we type it in during the last meeting or something? That maybe is what happened. Because the one you sent us before the last meeting had 9 items. I think we added number 10 during the meeting, maybe.
I think we did.
Okay.
This was a suggestion that Jim made at the last meeting.
During the meeting. Okay, now it makes sense to me. Okay, I have a list of 9 from my file folder here or whatever. So may I share my screen for a moment?
I just want to make, as my voice.
Here's Joe.
Oh,
Forget
good.
that.
Now we can hear Joe. Now
can
we
we-
hear you, Joe.
I'm sorry, I was pushing it, it wouldn't go through, so my
Oh,
whole
no.
computer froze. Sorry, everybody. I gotta remember what my thought was. My thought was, when the engineering gets done, some of these things that are written in here are gonna change because some of the culverts may decide that they want to change them or locations. Maybe there's a way of writing it that when engineering gets done, have Lake Wyola, the roads committee, follow a certain, I don't know, a diagram or a certain procedure to do what they recommend and not what they're doing now. Maybe because what they're doing now may not be the right thing.
Right. So I think there's a second document that's not specific, and Tom has reformatted that. I think that you guys tell me, these items that are on this list seem like real-time items. there are things that do need to be done this season, let's say. Regardless, the engineering study probably wouldn't even begin until October or November. So we could say, or ask the question, do the items on this list relate at all to the engineering study, or are they things that would theoretically be done with the existing culverts, let's say, or the existing situation? And understanding that once the engineering study is done, there might not be a culvert in a certain place. We don't know, right? Do you understand the distinction that I'm trying to make?
Yeah, but I think because I was on a roads committee, and every year that I was on it, we kind of did the same thing. We had the same problems in the same locations, and they addressed them. But what changed, the only thing that changed is we've been getting some heavy rainstorms, more now than I remember.
Mhm.
And I think in the last couple of years, that part of it has changed. Maybe the culverts aren't big enough now, so you have a little bit more cleaning to do. But for the most part, the roads have been taking a beating. I mean, every road I fill in potholes, and then within a week, they come back again. Part of it is
So-
because of the roads are being used more now than they've ever been used
That's right.
in the
Yeah,
past. I mean, I look at how many trucks are going down UPS and Amazon and equipment and everything else. The roads are being really used a lot, and it affects the roads itself. It's not just the material, it's and the weather.
right. So does this bit that's up here in the introduction cover your concern? It's expected that the two proposed engineering studies will guide some of these recommendations, assessing and proposing best management practices and other steps to mitigate the negative impacts.
Yeah, I think that part of it is great. And I hope when they do the study that they go beyond or maybe a little bit further than, so we prepared for the next round
Oh, yeah, well, that's the whole goal,
of
right?
stuff.
But does a statement like this address the?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. I mean, for everything it's there, I'm just throwing what my thought is.
yeah.
I think you're doing a great job with this, by the way, so.
Well, no, that we all are, but no, it's,
Right.
as you were talking, I was going, oh, I think we put something in there about the engineering
Right.
studies. So then I remembered that it was up in this little preamble.
Right. Because I
Okay,
think when they do the engineering studies, they can combine and make it so it's a little easier to take care of. Instead of having 15 outlets, you may only have 5 outlets.
right, exactly.
Designed better for water flow and catching water flow, both on both sides of the lake. I think that's what they may come up with, I hope. And consolidating everything so you have a better way of taking care of it.
Right.
But that's just my opinion. And I couldn't, I tried to push my button, it wouldn't come out.
Okay, well, now try to lower your hand.
I'm gonna try it, but I got a screen in my way. Here it is. How's that?
Okay, good. Thanks, Joe. No, that was helpful to bring us back to see that I would have added it, but it turns out that it's there. Okay, so let's go to that. So we had a set, so this will go in the report to the select board. The association has signed off on it. They requested the sign off, option. So Charlene, I'm taking it from you that this is good to go and we can put that in the report.
Yes.
Okay, Tom's hand is up.
Yeah, it's going to be moot, but if it's okay, I just wanted to present a different way of formatting the document we're looking at. Even just for thinking, but I don't mind if this is the one we submit. I'm not going to advocate for that or like difference, but.
Now, the one that you want to share, is that the one that you sent today?
Yeah,
Okay, I was just going to show that because it was my impression that that was dealing with the more general recommendations, not the
it's
very
got,
specific
it's
ones.
got both at the top
All
and
right,
the.
well, let's look at that then.
Okay, cool.
Are you able to share it?
I can, or you can if you want, if you have
Let
it.
me,
I
yeah,
have it.
I'll try.
Okay,
Let me get rid of this one. I think I
Sure
have to
thing.
stop sharing this and then share again.
right.
And oops. Okay, so this is the,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so let me slide this off out of the folder because that was a problem before.
Hmm.
Okay, all this is a document that Tom sent today, which I guess if I'm understanding you right, Tom, this combines both the specific recommendations and the more general recommendations.
Onto one page, but it doesn't mix them together.
Okay.
It's not displaying yet. It's still doing the same thing it did last time.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But something will solve. Maybe unshare and share again. I don't know. Yeah, that's better.
Is that better?
Can you hit on the left side of your screen the X next to all topics?
Yes.
I think that'll, yeah, expand a little bit. Cool. Yeah,
Okay,
so,
so why don't you walk us through this?
sure. If you don't mind scrolling down below the asterisks, this is and can you go a little more all the way to the bottom? Yeah, or until that line. So we can just see everything from the asterisks to that line on one screen, more or less. So this is the document we just looked at, not including the edits we made during the last meeting, because I didn't have that, or that the LWA made since they saw it. But I just wanted to show it because you had asked during our last meeting about reformatting things to visualize and whatnot. And so I'll just tell people what I did differently, and it's really maybe just to look at and think about. It may not be the end document, but you had gone from town and LWA to town and then to LWA. So I just made that progression a little different. I started at town, then LWA, and then the third column is town and LWA.
I see that in here, okay.
And for me, that just helps my brain. And so I'm just offering it as like another way to think about it, the ordering of things. I took away the numbers because it was difficult for me to decide, should I number per responsible party? And that's probably how I would number this. If I gave it numbers under town of Shutesbury, I would probably go like 1, 2, 3, and under LWA. This helped me as well because the document we were just looking at before, Charlene pointed that out, like 2 and 6 and 7 and 9 were LWA. Like it wasn't clear to me how it was split up by the party taking care of the action involved, which you had split up in the previous document. So if people understand what's going on here now, I just wanted to present it as like another way people might want to start collating thoughts in their head visually is just by party, who's doing what. And then please, if you would scroll up, this is the same treatment that you had done more explicitly with your little visual of the general recommendations that you had out there. I split them up into annual, spring, fall, and periodic, which you also had done, but it might have been a little different visually. And I took away the numbers again. So that people, I was like, so if I'm in the highway department, I could look at the left and all the way at the right and figure out where I'm going to be. If I'm an LWA party, I know I look at the middle and then I look at the right to see which 2 columns encompass what I might be involved with. Like if in my family we had job charts or after dinner and outdoor charts, and this is kind of a reminder of how we did that in my family. The person was at the top of the person is at the top of every column. Yeah, you had to like X in very quickly, like drying the dishes was much more attractive than sweeping the floor, type of thing. So
all I know is that I always had to empty the dishwasher and I hated it, and I tried to talk my mother into being able to just wash the dishes by hand because I always had to come in early from playing so that I had to empty the dishwasher. And I thought I'd rather wash all the dishes and get it over with, but we had a dishwasher and I had to use the dishwasher. God darn it. All right, anyway, that was an aside. Well, I think this is,
people could imagine it as like a big pie chart, because I can imagine a big circle where like it looks as though maybe half of the circle would be shared activities and a quarter and a quarter. It might not work out that way if you actually added up them by activities. But some of the activities have 2 activities in one. So
right.
I didn't know if a graph or like a percentage chart would really be meaningful. So I just offer this as kind of a response to what you had mentioned at the last meeting about maybe recollating this information.
Right.
I did it to the general and the specific ones, as you can see.
Well, so I don't know, do you guys want to weigh in? I think, having something that's got all the information on one, it's one page, right? Or is it
That's
two
the other thing
pages?
I wanted to advertise. This fits on an 8.5 by 11,
Right,
and it's pretty readable font wise.
yeah.
So just
So
something.
other
to
than
talk about.
making sure, we would have to make sure that everything that Charlene has submitted
Exactly.
got incorporated under the Lake Wyola
Right. So like if you go
Association
down to the
section.
specific ones, we would want to reword those one or two things, and we would
Right.
want to add number 10 because it's just not there. I only had 9 items when I made it, but
Right,
I believe it would all still fit on one page if that's a matter to people. You know, nowadays everything's on a screen anyway, so it might never end up on a piece of paper. But
well, it will, because they're gonna get a written report.
true.
And
So-
Tom, can I ask where, when you determined annual, spring and fall and periodic,
Mhm.
that was from the other document?
Yeah, Jen had actually, yeah, this is all just copied and pasted. Jen
Oh,
had put those
okay.
words in there.
It
Because
wasn't the
that's more of a
specific ones.
schedule. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that shows somewhat of a schedule that maybe I can show the Lake Wyola Association since that I just didn't
And I
remember.
was wondering, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, finish.
Oh, okay. When I composed it, I realized like if you look at what we're looking at now, town and LWA in the top right, review operation and maintenance plan,
Yeah,
and that's an annual like get together, let's do this and identify the projects for the year. Please, Jen, if you scroll down to the specific recommendations, you'll see that the very first one and the only one that's shared is essentially the same task. It's just the first time doing it.
right.
So it says,
Right, that's the difference. See, that's what I was trying to
and so
get at.
I was thinking there's another presentation out there where each task is given like a start moment, and then how often will you return to this task as like a maintenance moment or as a a follow-up or something. Because I was, in my opinion, that's really kind of the same task, just different points in time. It seems as though the one at the bottom of the page again is like to develop this operation plan, and then the annual activity is to implement it.
That's
And,
right. So I was trying to
so
make the
that
distinction.
might help just down the line. We might make another list somewhere. I'm thinking of, we expect the culvert work in this area to start here, and then look at what we're looking at now on the screen. This is how often we'll return to it.
I'm wondering if maybe they do need to be separated because,
That's possible. Yeah, it might
bec-
make it
and
less.
this is important for Charlene too, that this
Mhm.
set of items right here is ongoing. It seems that some of them fall naturally into things that happen on an annual basis. Some things happen in a seasonal basis, and some things happen as needed. Okay. Right now, there is no operation and maintenance plan that's jointly prepared for or reviewed by Lake Wyola Association and the town. That's a specific recommendation, along with all the ones that we just looked at. So it's different, sort of generalized things that probably wouldn't change from year to year because they're more assessment. Conduct a spring assessment, conduct a fall assessment, review your plan, see where you stand in relation to the plan, etc. And then there's something that is quite specific, like clean ditches or, clean culverts. That's in my understanding of FERCog's recommendations. These are things that they've already identified as need immediate attention, whereas this is more process oriented. This is more workflow oriented. So perhaps these should be separated and perhaps they should be titled differently so that those distinctions are really clear. I hope we're not spending too much time on this, but I am interested in anybody's feedback about how to approach this in our report.
Well, I know currently what happens for the Lake Wyola Association is, and actually, even if you're not a member of the association, I believe everybody gets a letter from the town before the winter season as to what needs to be done in order for the town to continue to plow for us in the winter. And usually it has to do with potholes or overgrowth or or something. So right now they sort of develop what they feel is a punch list for residents around the lake. And then everybody has to basically do their own thing. And then in the fall, I think we have a work day when we do try to get things done as well. So right now it's not coordinated. Everybody's sort of, we wait for direction from the town and then we respond to the town. But the way I read this is an operation and management plan means we actually sit together and come up with a plan rather than what we're doing now. Am I seeing that differently?
Well, no, I think you're quite right, but I think there's one important distinction. What's being done now is relating to the surface of the roads and
Right.
getting the surface of the roads in the right condition for plowing. What's being proposed here is all about drainage. It's all about water flow and drainage, culverts, things, ditches that need to be either repaired or sediment removed. You know, that's not typically anything the town has anything to do with in terms of that letter. And this is why I've been pushing to have some special arm involved with erosion and drainage systems, not just road surfaces.
Okay. But that's
Um,
what I'm saying. That's our only real interaction with the town right now.
Right. Yeah. So that's why what our work has been so important to bring the town and the association together in terms of planning and then we plan together, but we maintain separately because we own the roads separately, you know. Tom's hand is up.
Yeah, I'm realizing what for me, and the way I'm thinking is, for lack of a better word, problematic in the general and the specific recommendations we have going on. Because just looking at the general ones now, I'm realizing under periodic, I see Wendell Road. Under the LWA column, I see Shore Road, Pine Drive, Laurels. And I'm wondering maybe those should not be in there because those seem as though they result from the general assessment that you're going to go to that road or this road.
I'm not sure I'm following you.
I guess I'm saying on this general chart, I think it
This
would be
one.
more accurate, like under the periodic one, for example, just have clean culverts and ditches.
I see. Yeah.
And then it would come after a meeting of the minds, hopefully of as many parties as possible, to then form a specific recommendation, the culverts and ditches on Wendell Road this year, this time, this now, whatever the now is. And so I guess what I'm noticing is that the Shore Drive and Pine Drive mentioned, the Great Pines mentioned, any specific mention of a road name on here, I think turns it into a
Makes it more specific.
recommendation.
So here's
if
one.
we remove them, I think it might actually be a clearer general recommendation.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to propose and see if you guys are in favor of this. I think if you're willing, Tom, since I think this format is easier to read,
Okay,
if you and I work together on this
yeah,
and make sure some of the things on Charlene's document are in there and make some of the changes that you're talking about and just like spruce this up a little bit and tighten it up a little bit. I think we need to
yeah.
retitle these so that
That could be a solution. One thing I'm just noticing now, I'm pointing at my screen, but that doesn't help you. If we look under periodic, clean culverts and ditches on Wendell Road, and then under annual, we have clean out culverts and drainage ditches, like that's actually the same activity. And like we might find a different way to put these out there.
well, I think part of this
Even
too
more
is
cleanly.
feedback.
Yeah,
Part of this is actual feedback from the highway department,
true.
where Dave said to me, they clean these culverts and ditches on Wendell Road periodically.
Yeah,
But the Lake Wyola Association, I know, doesn't do that periodically. Whenever they happen to be looking at it once a year, they might not even do it once a year. Right. So part of what's here and why they're different is that Dave
Mhm.
has given feedback on the way he works.
Yeah.
And it's different than the way the association works.
Yeah, I went
So-
through a lot of different presentations here, like some starting with the task. If the task were clean out culverts, could I have like visually to the right of it annual or periodic, depending on who's doing it and whatnot. So I
Yeah.
settled on what we see here now. But in my ideal document, there would be no repeats of any phrasage. And so that's why it's just glaring to me right now where I see clean out culverts written twice. The document maker in me wants to find a way to mention that once. Like, 'cause it's cleaner and, but, sometimes you have to settle on writing the same phrase twice.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm
Let's-
sorry about. So I don't mind leaving this conversation because otherwise it'll be.
Well, I don't want to get into the weeds too much
Yeah.
on wordsmithing it with everybody,
Okay.
because that could be just maybe not the best use of our time, but
Mhm.
I agree that I think this document and what it's trying to point to needs to be spruced up a little bit.
Mhm.
And so if everyone is okay with that, and if, Tom, if you're willing, maybe you and I can work together on getting a second draft.
Mhm.
Are you okay with that?
Gladly. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
And
fine.
any objections from the others?
The only thing I would question, because I'm now that it's been pointed out and it makes sense to me, if annually the Lake Wyola Association would be expected to clean out the culverts and drainage ditches, and again, it specifies Shore Road and Pine Drive, wouldn't it make sense to also have the town have to clean out the culverts and ditches on Wendell Road annually?
Well, see that it makes sense, except that Dave says his practice is to do it more than annually. That's why it's periodically. In other words,
Oh, so it could be more than once a year.
correct.
Okay, so periodic, I'm looking at it
Yeah.
as once every 3 years or once.
Okay.
So periodic, you mean within a year to have several times done?
Glad you flagged that because I thought the word periodic it didn't hit what it needed to hit.
No, yeah,
So-
then that, okay, so
Might
maybe
be as needed.
clarification on that, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Let's see. Why don't Tom and I will work on this and we'll bring this back to the group
Okay,
and see if we can get a second run at this. Is that okay?
yep.
All right.
Can I just, I hate to go back because I have my minutes in front of me and
Uh-huh.
it's totally completely different than what we're talking about, but
Which, go back to
we were
where?
the beginning of the meeting when we were talking about what's being presented at the town meeting.
Yes.
Where did the amount 4,350 come? Because at our meeting, we voted 4,035 if it was 5% of the actual cost, 80,700, but we bumped it up to 81,000 and we agreed to the 4,050. So I don't have anywhere that there's a 4,350 figure. I'm just wondering where that came from.
Oh, I heard what happened. You said you bumped it up to 81,000?
Right.
It was 87,000 to begin with. It
Okay.
wasn't 80,700, it was 87,000.
87,000. Okay.
Yeah, it was 80 for the H&H study and then it was +7 for the geomorphic.
Right.
Oh,
So
okay.
8,700 divided in half is 4,350.
Okay. So I'm trying to think, I don't have the letter in front of me. I assume we put in what we voted at our meeting, which would have been 4,050. That's my only concern.
But it was always, let me look at this. I think I
What
might
the,
have your letter.
What
You
they
have
said
the
on
letter?
the side is like I don't think
I'm looking for it now.
that like less than a couple $100 amount, I don't think is going to make a difference. Like,
I'm just, I don't think we considered the additional $6,000. Because at that point, we were only dealing with the engineering study.
What we have here is 80,000, this is your letter,
Okay,
George's
what
letter.
did it say?
The engineering study is 80,700, which is accurate,
Right.
and that your commitment is contingent on the town's equal contribution of
wait,
5%.
is that accurate? I thought it was 87,000, not 80,700.
No, I think it's 80,700.
Right, that's what we had in our minutes.
No, it was 80,000 for the H&H plus 7,000 for
Plus
the.
700 extra. Let me
It was
look at that. Hold
700
on.
extra for the fluvial.
Hold on a
geology?
minute. Just hold on a minute.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find this. $80,700. I'm looking at the GZA proposal right now.
Right. And then we bumped it up to 81,000, but heard that we have to go with
That's
the
right.
actual cost. So my figure is 4,035.
I think you're right. I think so.
And I thought
8,000.
that's what we put in the letter. That's why I don't, that 7,000 makes a big, or what is it? 6,300 makes a difference. But Tom, you think you heard that at the meeting? It's
Maybe
87,000?
I've been the one with the mistake. I'm so sorry. I'm
It's
looking at the GZA
80,000.
proposal now.
80,070 would be 10% of 80,700, and then divided by 2
Yeah, I'm looking
is
at their, yeah,
4,035.
yeah. I put the 7 in the wrong spot.
Okay,
All right,
All
so
so-
we're the letter was good. Okay, 'cause
everything
I
is
didn't
good.
Want to send it wrong, that we sent it wrong. Okay, good. All right, I'm
All
glad
right.
you asked. Okay.
All right, good. All right, so now, Tom, you and I will get together and redraft this thing.
Now I'm embarrassed about my question at the finance committee last night because it was based on 87,000.
And then, so the next thing we want to look at is the public education recommendations. And I will do that now. And there's 2 components of this. As far as I know, Charlene, the association didn't have any, can everyone
No.
see this normally? Is this a thumbnail? Do we see this? Can you guys see this as a
That's good,
regular
yeah.
document?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
good.
good. So we don't have to, we looked at this in detail last meeting. If there were no changes by the association, but I'm still interested in any feedback or any comments they had, any discussion they had about it.
No, as I said, the one thing that I kept asking about was having a lay group go onto private property. And, I know for myself, I would feel uncomfortable doing that on somebody else's property. But then when we reread this, I'm looking at the word encourage. So encourage has a whole different meaning than mandate. So
Oh, yeah.
that's why everything looks good.
Okay, good. So with everyone's approval, we'll put this into the draft report. We're going to be, of course, looking at the report as a whole, but this will be a document that will go into our report to the select board as part of our recommendations. I also wanted to bring up this. Can you guys see this?
If you can make it a little larger. Oh, good.
Okay, so this is the FERCog technical assistance support, and what they would like to do is to facilitate 2, we'll just look at the deliverables here. They want to attend 3 of our meetings, if there are 3 meetings, or ad hoc outreach planning meetings to prepare for education events that they would sponsor regarding ways to reduce sedimentation to Lake Wyola. They want to hold 2 events. Those could be actual events in the neighborhood, like at the association hall. They could be at the library, or they could be online. I'm proposing that we incorporate these not recommendations, but outreach public education suggestions into the other document so that it's all just one document. It's just that one is a generalized things that people can do and reaching out to property owners, and the other is, things that FERCog, especially this part, they will facilitate these two public events that will include these kinds of topics that are right here. Do you guys, does that make sense?
So you would add this to the other document you're saying?
Correct, yeah.
And
So
would you identify it as FERCog based or just sort of
correct,
leave it in? Okay.
yes. And to that point, Tamsin from FERCog wonders whether she can attend our next meeting to talk about our thoughts of how they might focus some of these outreach and education events. I told her I'm not sure how many more meetings we'll have. That's further on our agenda, but I expect that we'll definitely have a meeting in June, because we need to get a final sign off on the report that we send to the select board. I don't expect maybe that we'll have too many meetings after that. Maybe we'll have 2 meetings in June, I'm not sure, but I know I have to write this report, which is pretty much already written based on all the work we've already done. Need to circulate it to you all. We need to see if we need to make some changes. But we also, I would also think that we would want to meet with FERCog to help them focus some of this education that they would be doing for free to our community. What do you think about that? What do you think about, getting back to Tamsin and saying, she thought our next meeting was on June 26th. We haven't really set that meeting yet, but I think she's available to come to any June meeting that we might have. Is that something that you all are up for? Bob?
Yeah, I think it would be great to have her come to a meeting. I think because we are relying on FERCog so much, I think it would help us get our expectations together. I did get a chance to meet Tasman on a site walk. Very knowledgeable, very interested, very engaged. So yeah, I would wholeheartedly support that.
Okay. Anyone who thinks, that it would be not in our best interests or our time to spend a little time trying to brainstorm what these education sessions might look like?
No, I think it's a good idea, and I'm even looking into the future that I know we don't have an environmental committee the way we used to years ago for the Lake Wyola Association. So, and that's obviously a huge part to all of this, that maybe in that discussion, we could talk about how we could have educational programs, we could host it at the association hall, an evening or a Saturday or whatever, where that could be available to anybody and anyone around the lake, or even townspeople, to come and hear a presentation. So, but
I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have these things planned, and then it's like getting people to turn out for them.
Right.
So, but that's step 2. But I think
Right.
that would be just excellent. It's like when Weed Watchers first got started and the state came and did a presentation. They've done more than one. They came and did presentations about invasive plants, and they had us practice using keys, and it was really not only fun, but super educational, and wonderful for the association to sponsor that.
Right. And that still happens through the Kathy and her husband.
Right. They had taken that over, but
they're
the initial training.
Yeah, but they technically aren't the environmental committee, but this would be another, an arm of that kind of thinking. So
I love it.
I think it would be great.
I love the idea. Well, then this is jumping ahead a little bit, but just so we could wrap this part up, if I'm looking at the calendar, and I know summer gets to be really busy, and Bob, I know you have Concom obligations, but if there was a Thursday in June, either the 19th or the 26th, Is there a preference for people's ability? And I could get back to Tamsin and say, please come to this meeting.
I just have to get my calendar.
Bob, do you know about your Concom schedule?
Yeah, I do not. Tom, are they usually, and I apologize for asking, is the Concom is usually the second and fourth, is that right?
Yeah, I would guess it would be the 12th and the 26th.
Yeah, do you know what
Unfortunately, but that's yeah, it's usually
we had
second.
it in a perfect pattern, so whatever, Jennifer,
Well, we
whatever
have this
pattern
one
we
on
had
the
before, we're
last day,
continuing.
but does it change? I mean, so this one was on the 29th. Our last one was on the 17th. That was the third Thursday.
Hmm.
May,
Jen,
this is,
I think I have on my calendar task force 7 p.m. on the 26th.
oh, okay. Did we already set that, didn't we?
I
Yeah,
think
before I left, we did that. Okay. That's great. So
I think
that's
that
when
should be
it is.
fine.
It'll be the 26th then. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just getting myself back in the groove. All right, so it will be on the 26th. We'll invite Tamsin and we'll start to brainstorm not only content, but venue for these public education moments.
Excuse me, Jen.
Yeah.
Did I read somewhere on something you showed us tonight that Tamsin and these events will have to be done by December? Did I read April to December as the timeline?
Let me
The
look at this.
DLTA, I think at the top of the document. Right. You just,
Oh yeah, April to December, right.
okay.
I
just
think
want
they
to-
get funding to provide these services. So their funding source requires these things to be.
So their
They have
goal
their
is
own,
to
they have a
deliver all
separate
of this,
timeline. Yeah,
so they can deliver all of this by then. That's
I'm
great.
assuming so. Yeah. I mean, this is their proposal.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, good. So. All right, so now we have this final report, which we kind of have touched on. What I thought I would do is pull together these three primary areas that we've researched, right? The engineering study, the maintenance component, and the education component. A little bit of a preamble of how we approached our work, including the beginning site evaluations that we've done and the decision to focus on drainage studies, drainage systems. So the report itself would be pretty straightforward. And then I think that it makes sense to have some next step suggestions should the select board want to do more. And I don't know what those would be yet. I would draft them, I guess, and we could talk about them. It would be things like search out more funding opportunities, both to pay for education, pay for flyers, pay for, rain barrels, or, other kinds of things that education could cover. We might want to lay out for the select board or the select board might want us to start researching additional funding for implementing some of the things the engineering study would produce. I know the association is going to need help with fundraising. I noticed that, well, this is irrelevant to that, I guess, something else on the town warrant, but I feel like a last and final section of the report to the select board should include, what we might anticipate to be the next things that could and should be done or thought about. The select board will decide what they want to do. Will this become a standing committee rather than a task force? Will this become some side satellite of LWAC? I think it would be a shame to just let all the work that we've done just kind of stop right here, because I feel like we're kind of at the beginning rather than the end of something. But what do you all think as far as how to approach the future when it comes to this work? A big question, I guess, huh? Bob's got his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And when you were looking for people, I said I'm happy to serve as long as this doesn't just become a document that sits on a shelf. And certainly you can look back as much as 30 years, and people are like, hey, we need to put a committee together to protect the roads and keep them from eroding into the lake. So definitely I'm encouraged that we've got this amazing study, and certainly I think probably putting that into action will be something that will need to be shepherded by somebody. So at the very least, I would say that should be something that goes on.
I think it would be really helpful for me, and I know everybody has a lot on their plate. Sometime between now and let's say, the second week of June, if you, from your position, if you could make some suggestions of things like, where should the select board take this work? Where would be the next area to focus on to bring some of these things off the page and into the community, right? As physical. I know we need a lot of waiting until the engineering study is completed, but that's going to be a long time. And it seems like there's things that we could be proposing as follow-up, monitoring, all kinds of things. I don't know what they are just yet, but I'd like to list them or name them for the select board so that they have a sense of, we took the FERCog report and we converted that to actual tangible things that the town and the association can do. And here is where we should go next with that.
When is the final report due?
Well, I think they
Sure.
gave us till
Ish.
June 18th.
Uh-huh.
I think I could have it ready by the 18th, but we're not meeting to review it till the 26th. So I might ask them for an extension till July 18th, let's say,
Mhm.
sometime this summer.
This might be something that FERCog is already envisioning, but as part of, or maybe as a completely separate presentation, are we still sharing screen, by the way? Or
Yes, we are.
I expand mine to see you all, but it's nice to see that.
I don't really need to share it anymore. Okay.
Thanks. I think it could be an interesting presentation if all of us got together one night and kind of just offered to the town like what we did for the last year, just as us,
Mhm.
did you know? And then Bob just touched on, we might even offer a small history component of how this topic has kind of almost risen up and then not really risen up, and this time it really has risen up to be something. And it's, I don't mean to hyperbolize, but it's an exciting moment. We're on the cusp of some real potential action, and it might help prepare people for when those moments come 6 months or a year from now.
Well, I could ask
And
the select
personalize
board.
it too for the townspeople, because they'll know a lot of us, or more than they'll know the FERCog people.
Yeah, I mean, I can ask the select board how they feel about how they'd like to approach this. If we could get on their agenda for a meeting with them. They usually have really packed agendas. It'd probably have to be some kind of a special meeting where we
Right.
invite them or some version of them.
I guess I'm just eager for the chance to kind of let the public in more actively on what's been going on. Not many people have come to our meetings,
Right.
and it's good news. Be fun to share it.
I'm making some notes here. Okay, that's a good suggestion. Charlene.
I'm just some experience that I've had on a committee that I was on in Deerfield. It was an ad hoc human rights committee, and it was short term. We were not called a task force. We were just called an ad hoc committee. And at the end of our many meetings, we decided that our focus was to provide resources to the town as to where people could go should they have a concern about a, a certain right that might be violated, because we knew our job wasn't to oversee it as a police kind of force. And that was the end of our call to duty, basically, for that ad hoc. And we presented it to the select board, and they were satisfied with what we had done. I think the difference for this committee is that we can't do that with this particular committee because the road work has to continue year after year after year. So I think what's really going to be important is whatever our recommendation is to them, say it be a, a permanent committee for this, set up by the town and appointed by the town, then that's going to be essential to, I think, what happens with this group. As I said, with this human rights group that we were in, it ended, and really it was, what we did was enough to satisfy the town and to satisfy the select board. But our task has been so different, and now we've involved grants and money, which we never did with that other group. So I personally can't see it ending, but I do feel we need to find out just how much support the town has for continuing it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's a very good example. I mean, one little brainstorm I had, let's just say, not necessarily task force in its present composition, but there is some imperative, I think, to, and I use this word, don't misunderstand me if I say oversight. It's not any kind of policing thing. It's a coordinating role, right? Because there are a lot of moving parts here. Let's just even take that operation and management plan. If that's a recommendation that the select board is going to undertake and get serious about, then who are the bodies that are going to bring together the parties to create this operation and management plan? We don't have a department in the town that would do that. I did think that LWAC is a potential location for someone who's got their eye on stormwater drainage and sedimentation of the lake, because LWAC is an advisory committee to the town about the lake. It involves Lake Wyola people, it involves town people. But Mark, I've kind of run this by Mark, and he's interested in it because he said currently, mostly they just deal with the dam. And it's possible that instead of creating a whole separate committee, that the work of shepherding is better than oversight, right? But shepherding some of the recommendations, keeping an eye on them, coordinating between the parties, that role, it could possibly live. I'm not saying it would need someone to be on LWAC who would do that work, because there's no one on LWAC right now that would do it, rather than creating a whole new committee in the town. Kind of like Lake Wyola Association said, well, I don't know, we don't want to create a whole stormwater drainage committee, but we'll fold that into the roads committee.
Right.
Tom.
Yeah, I could see the LWAC aspect, or that working out that way. But I also, when you mentioned that the operation and management stuff is going to come up every year, I wondered, like, oh, is that going to be maybe a team in the future or a group of people in the future? And maybe there will be a separate committee, for lack of a better word, whose task it will be annually or whatever it is to, keep up with this.
So
One thing.
let me just interrupt.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not really our role to to specify it, but we
Mhm.
might put in our recommendations that we're recommending some kind of institutional location
Mm,
for some kind of coordination around stormwater sedimentation and bring the different actors together for planning purposes.
right.
You know,
And
it
the
needs
key-
to be incorporated into the institutional structure of how the town works.
Right. And to that institutional structure, my other point was going to be, in our final report, we might make mention and not necessarily advocate for it, but at least give it attention. The fact that there are other roads with concerns about erosion and runoff and everything that aren't part of the Lake Wyola watershed in town. And I know that when I first joined this committee and described it to some people, I was not sure whether it was only going to be about the Lake Wyola watershed or not. And some people were very eager to have their roads involved, but they aren't.
Mhm.
So we might just offer it as a model to think about for other parts of town, to see if it might be a way for them to get work and progress on their roads or the problems they see. Because I think a lot of them are erosion related. Look at Sand Hill Road. Did you hear how Sand Hill Road washed out last
Mhm.
week, 2 weeks ago? So I just wanted to throw it in there as like it might be a good thing to acknowledge, more than just this part of town in our final report somehow.
Yeah, something in the category of, storm vulnerability and erosion
Right.
issues
And
all
even
through
as
the
you
town.
described this future group that might help shepherd us through the maintenance and whatnot, that group might then end up also helping out other portions of town if 10 years down the line they get a grant for a study on their road and they can do improvements and whatnot. So
Okay, well, that gives me something to work with. You guys will see something that hopes to touch on some of these points in terms of how we might wrap up our current work and make some suggestions of what might happen next as the town takes on our recommendations. But all to Bob's point, I think all of us are committed to not having this all just sit on a shelf somewhere, that this has been all about getting something to happen. and I'm completely dedicated to making sure that that occurs to the extent that I have the power to do that. And I know we all feel the same way. So, and it also, I'm happy and would really love it. I know everyone is pulled in a million different directions, but if somehow when you're driving around and you have the thought, oh, we should add this or we should add that, this is a place that we could take this work in the future. And I will fold all of that into whatever we write to the select board. If you want to shoot me your suggestions, it would be super helpful. All right, so working through our agenda, we have already talked about our next meeting. And unless there's any new business, we could get a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I second it.
sure.
You got a second? Okay. So I will vote aye. Tom,
Aye.
Charlene,
Aye.
Bob,
Hi.
and Joe.
Aye.
Okay. So,
Madam Chair,
yes, sir.
I apologize. I just wanted to say that I'm really proud of the product that these folks I didn't know everybody at first, and I'm really proud of the site visits and the work that we put together and taking it in front of town meeting has been in the matching funds from the association. I think it's something we can all be proud of, and thank you. It's been an honor to work with you.
Likewise. Thank you. Thank you for referring to me always as madam.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, right.
Chair.
Sometimes I turn around and I go, is he talking about me? Yeah, hopefully, I mean, we have one more little bit of work to do, I think, and maybe a little bit more than that, but I also know that we've done good things and we've gotten something started that didn't exist before. You know, we made something out of nothing. And I especially love this potential coordination with the association and the town. I think that that is brand new, and it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't have gotten together and done this work. So it's good. So sleep well, everyone.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the
Good
next
night.
few weeks. I'll send something well in advance of our June 26th meeting so that you have a chance to look at whatever this draft report looks like. And Tom, you and I'll communicate about getting together on that one chart.
Cool. Okay.
Okay, great. Take good care, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.